a Belize. I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there. I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there. I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born there.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there.
Tell them that we born there.
You're born there, you're born there. I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born there.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born there.
I want
Good night and welcome to Naval String Connections. I am your host, ARIA Lightfoot, and Bilal is joining us and a few of my co-hosts. But tonight we have Rishma Eckert, who is, you've met Rishma before. She's one of the planners for the Belize Diaspora Summit that's coming up next week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So good night. Thank you. We're on XTV and Creme Radio. And we would like to thank people for tuning in tonight. And we want to talk a little bit about the Belize Diaspora Summit, who the planners are, and what are some of the events that we're going to be hosting at this event. So with that being said, welcome Rishma. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've been on the show before, but for people who are tuning in for the first time, could you just give a little introduction?
Sure. Good night, everyone. Good night, Belize. XTV should make me the honorary third host of this show, the amount of times I've been on it. But it's my pleasure. My name is Rishma Eckert. My maiden name is Suknandan. My family grew up in Belize. I grew up in Belize, and now I live in Florida. I practice business law. And as Aria mentioned, I'm one of the summit organizers, and I'm very happy to be on the show to talk about our awesome program that we're going to have for 3 days for the summit.
Awesome. Thank you, Rishma. So just to give a little bit of history with the Belize Diaspora Summit, could you tell us a little bit about your organizing in the Belize Diaspora?
Sure. So prior to this, I am on the board of directors for the Belize American Chamber of Commerce with our amazing executive director, Michael D. Young. And for the last about 8 to 10 years, we've been organizing big events and little events. So with the BACC, which is the Belize American Chamber of Commerce, we would have 2 major events every year. One would be a Belize Investment Forum, where we would bring investors, we would bring projects from Belize and bring investors, and we would try to connect them so that there's opportunity for investment. The other major event that we would do is a trade mission, where we would take US companies that were interested in Belize to Belize so that we can show them the landscape, show them, have them meet with strategic partners, get an idea of what it would be to do business in Belize. So to the background that you were talking about the summit, when we started doing the Belize Investment Forum, it was a mostly half-day program with breakout sessions afterwards. And we would get people to go to, for example, we were in DC, we were in New York, we were doing them in different cities around the US. And after we had one of our last ones,
In New York.
I think it was the New York one. After we
Yes.
had the New York one, it was a huge success. We had mayors there, we had ambassadors there, we had a lot of different people there that were great strategic partners. And we had great synergies in terms of the investments that were being spoken about, and also the people who were there pitching investments as well. So after that, Mose Hyde contacted our organization and he said, this what you guys are doing is great, because he attended as well, but maybe a half day program isn't enough to talk about Belizean issues. Now, mind you, the BACC, we were very just business and investment focused, but Mose had a really good point. What about Belizeans who want to get together, who are not necessarily looking for investments or looking to talk about business, but they want to talk about policy, they want to talk about issues in Belize, they want to talk about just socializing and networking in that way. What about the Belizeans who are not necessarily interested in investment, but they still want to meet up? A half day program might not have been sufficient for that, because a lot of times when we go to different cities, we're talking about people who have to make travel plans. We're talking about people who have to maybe take time off work to attend these events. They go into expenses. So why not make the programming not just a half day, but a few days, so that we can do different aspects of like Belizean networking? We thought it was a fantastic idea. The BACC wanted to stick with just business and investment, which is fine. That is what a chamber does. So ARIA and I took it upon ourselves, well, let's go ahead and expand this and work alongside with Mose and make this into more. So it went from a Belize Investment Forum that was a BACC event to the Belize Diaspora Summit, because now we want to incorporate not just business, not just, we don't really talk about investments, but we talk about networking, we talk about policy, we talk about more social issues. We have more social events, like we're going to have this year. We have a theatrical performance. We have last year we had a gala. Now we're going to have a after party. Yeah, an after party. So we're trying to expand on the types of events that we can have as a Belizean community. So it's not just focused on investments and the stuff that the chamber already does, but expand it and make it over a span of time, 2 days, 3 days, so that if you are taking off work and you are flying to a new location, you are spending money on accommodations, you can get more out of that than a half day event.
And one of the things I do want to mention that, which I know there's a lot going on, but we have the clinics that are happening. We have the immigration and the lands clinic, which is very important for the Belizeans in the Belize diaspora, for the simple reason that when Belizeans visit home, many times they don't have the opportunities to wait in line for a couple days to get services. And so these services are actually very important for a lot of people who have land issues. I mean, I am in the real estate space, and why land issues are always major is because a lot of Belizeans never write a will. And so there's all these descendants that own the same piece of land or have claim to it, and therefore they have to kind of go back and forth to try to resolve some complicated land issues sometimes. There's issue with people making application and they have to get surveys done, but it's a process. And so going to Belize, I mean, the average American person, you normally only get 20 hours to 25 hours vacation a year. So when people are vacationing in Belize, many times they're on very limited time to actually use the time to go somewhere else, and they're kind of taken up. That's one
God,
aspect of it.
and
This
God
year we're
forbid you
doing
don't.
policy too. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and God forbid you don't have one of the things that they asked for in
Right.
their checklist of documents. So now you're in a space where you're going to have to go back home, or to the country that you reside, and then you have to now get those documents, make another trip to Belize. It becomes a little bit laborious, and we wanted to make sure that we can provide certain resources for Belizeans in the diaspora as well.
And then we have Social Security that's going to be virtual. So you could make your applications virtually. And also they are going to give us a space so that if anybody have any questions, they're going to give us an hour space for people to ask them questions if they have any issues regarding applying for their social security card, or, a lot of Belizeans abroad are hiring Belizeans at home. And that's a whole set of people that are not being captured in the marketing system of, not marketing, but social security system, where their workers are not covered under social security. So these are some of the things that we were thinking about that we can be beneficial for both Belizeans at home and abroad. Then this year we're bringing in UB. UB has some great programs. We met with them. They want to showcase these programs that they're offering online. Belize is big with
Virtual.
re, re, sorry, with my brain is going, but Belize is good with environmental stuff, and it's good with archaeology and all these different programs. The UB just started a medical school, and they're talking about starting a law
A
school.
school.
To me,
Yep.
these are major issues when it comes to nation building. And I think these are things that we're trying to collaborate with Belizeans who are well placed in the profession of education. They're professors, some of them are doctors themselves, and it's an opportunity for collaboration and building different stuff. We have Dr. Dylan Vernon, who is in charge of policy research at the University of Belize. And it would be a good opportunity that the Belize diaspora, that FYI has never been surveyed by any government in Belize. So we've made guesses about how many Belizeans live abroad, but there's been no survey. The US
Mhm.
has done their own survey, but once you are born in the US, that number is no longer captured under as a normal census. But according to Belize law, you can be a Belizean citizen up to your grandparents. So there's the potential of, you know, um, creating these bridges with Belizeans. If you go to any Belizean event, you will see most Belizeans are very engaged. They want their children to also share Belizean citizenship. They want their children to be involved somehow, even if it's on some level. So, Belizeans by descent, immigration is going to be offering that for people like myself who have an American child, that I want that child to have Belizean citizenship. I have an American grandchild. Likewise, I want them to have Belizean citizenship. So these are the things that are services that are being provided. And I think that, of course, Bilal is here, and Bilal can more go into the history of the Belize diaspora to show you how this has been a constant. He gave me a timeline, and Bilal, I shared your timeline with Dr. Vernon, because he did ask for information, and I did share some census information with him, so that you, Bilal, can tell us a little bit about the Belize diaspora and the work that you've done in the past. I think Bilal is frozen.
And there he is.
Okay.
Yeah, greetings. Glad to be here. Sorry for being late. Was enjoying your conversation with Aria and Rishma. I was enjoying it very much because you all are the organizers on the ground, and putting together a summit like this is not easy.
And we're wearing our
I
shirts
got to give you kudos to
today.
you guys last year, because
We're wearing
last
our
year Belize Diaspora Summit Los Angeles was amazing success, fantastic. I mean, nothing could touch that. I mean, bring something that could have touched that for 2024. Nothing. I mean, not even not even anything that the government of Belize may have put off could have touched that, right? And I know you guys want to better it this year,
Yeah,
right? You want to better
for
your
sure.
record. I just got to say kudos to organizing something like that, because um, the whole dream of this is bigger than all of us. It's where this can go, bringing in, as you guys were talking about, bringing in the young people, bridging those gaps with the young generation of Belizeans. I remember calling by the Consortium of Belizean Development to talk to young people here in LA. It was three of us, me, Dr. Strawn, and Reakbar. And Dr. Strawn got up with his academic language and they walked out. They could not connect. And soon the Akbar had to save the event. And when he started talking, people came back in the room because, sometimes you disengage them, you're disconnected. I mean, there's high polluted academic language that that's the Dr. John made. You got to tone it down because
Hmm.
you, they know it's just not there. But I just say that to say that the young generation of Belizeans, this is for them. We are just the stepping stones and the builders to which for a bigger dream. I remember when Ambassador Bertucker, Adalbert Tucker came to me with the 2011 Homecoming Conference. Um, and before that, he organized helped organize the consortium. This guy was so amazing in terms of all this, and he mentioned, man, Bilal, we got to get the 2011 Homecoming Conference. His idea was to stage it in Belize. The Belize Diaspora Summit was staged, the first one in LA, in the United States. But he's like, when all the Belizeans come home celebrating, we wanted this. And I think I shared those documents with you. And I mean, you saw the vision in terms of what he was trying to achieve, right? As the then ambassador of trade and the Caribbean and Africa. And
I
this is
imagine if
trying
they
to
had
bring
social media and these tools, how far
Back
along we
then.
probably would have been.
Yeah.
These
so
guys,
very much
because
so, right?
organizing without these tools must have been very tough in those days, right?
Yeah, and we have to give the Brazilian administration credit because Barrow killed that one, the 2011. He did not have the vision for it. It was under the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Sadie Ellington, who embraced it, but Mr. Barr just hijacked that just because they had problems. He's like, we have problems. They had problems with Bertoka. So they're like, yeah, destroy that. No. And so these things are very difficult to organize in terms of bringing government along. Aria and Rishma, would you say you all are on the ground there, right? And how to bring the government on board, like Philip Goldsmith used to like to say, if they are willing,
Yeah.
government is willing. But that homecoming conference was just hijacked. I mean, Prime Minister Barr did not see the vision for that. He just, and it could have been because here is an ambassador that is in the government, right? That has done tremendous work, helped form the consortium with Dr. Eddie Lang, and Philip Goldson before that in 1985, has come again, time again, the top 10 program in 1991 under Minister Said Musa, who understood the vision, right? And then he tried to put the 2011 homecoming conference. And I'm glad that Mose Hyde was able to come aboard the whole diaspora vision and see that this thing was possible. I remember him bringing the idea to myself 2 years before it was a reality, and they had come to cover the Summit of the Americas at the convention center. Him and Marisol Amaya, and he was able to see the dynamism of
Potential.
the Los Angeles Belizean community.
Yeah.
George Caleb Price saw that in 1991 because he was given an entire tour by Ernesto Castillo, and along with Breda, we took him on showed him the extensive Belizean business community outside of the Belizean community. Belizeans were so constructive, have owning companies, construction companies, manufacturing companies that are still there. And he was very impressed, taken to City Hall and meet Mayor Reardon, who passed away already. But George Caleb Price understood because there was one person again who never understood the vision of the Belizean diaspora until that 1991 visit and his renowned presentation at Manual Arts High School, the school where Belizean children of Belizean parents attend. And the red carpet treatment and the standing ovation that he got from having to make his presentation in both English and Spanish. I mean, which prime minister could have touched that now up to today, and Rishma. So it's a dynamic history that we are talking about, a timeline that I gave you a timeline there, but there's so much more to fill in, you know?
And I
So
asked
much more to fill
Bilal
in. I
for
just want to
the
say that we have to include the
I asked Bilal for the timeline, and like my whole phone light up. Was it for half an hour? I just get text after text after text from Bilal. You know, I was very impressed with how it's
I
like
mean,
you
it's
just
just in my
you
head,
pour
and
it
then there is
out.
still a lot, you know, there's just still a lot that was missed out in terms of a timeline area. And Rishma, we have to really sit down constructively along with people like Dr. Strawn and really,
Put it
I teach a
together.
lot of history.
Yeah, that
And when
would
you're
be
talking about
great.
And
a
and
timeline,
the groups, the different groups of Belizeans, because we only know what we are familiar with, but the Belizean community is extensive, you know. I mean, when you think about even Canada, Canada has a group. You think
and
about
it
Chicago, the
England,
does
amount of Belizeans within a Chicago,
the
and the
first president
UK.
of the Belize Consortium for Belizean Development, Mr. McKeesey, was from Canada.
right?
Yeah.
New
The
York,
first, he
Florida,
passed away. That whole generation of Belizean organizers like you guys now,
Louisiana.
that whole passed away. Yeah, and we want to honor them.
Absolutely.
We want to honor them because they laid down the foundation um for Belize to have that respect in the United States and in the UK and Canada.
And we
They
need to write
laid
a
down the
book.
foundation
We
for
need a history book
Yeah.
so that it moves forward, that we don't always have to look back. That's something you build on, like we're building
it's a,
on this, what
there's a
you
history
guys
there.
did
It
in
has
the
to be written
past.
down. Yeah,
You know, and big up to
yeah.
Krem and XTV for having the vision, because it really started with Nuri
Yes.
when it comes to this show, Nuri Mohammed, where he invited the diaspora in on Fridays. Remember? Fridays, one
We
Friday,
have to,
he
that's what I'm
started
saying,
to
the
invite
timeline,
in
Nur
the
Muhammad and his
diaspora.
work. Um, Nur Muhammad and his work, I was privy to a lot of his work from the 70s, the 80s. And he's another Belizean ambassador that have laid down tremendous amount of work long before the whole crime thing. I mean, he came from out of the Muslim community in Belize, and he joined the Chicago branch of he worked with the Chicago branch of the world-renowned uh, Muslim Journal newspaper under Imam Worthy Muhammad. I wrote for that paper through Nur Muhammad. On Belize, I wrote for that paper through him. And then he came here. But he was very pivotal in the work he did with Bert Tucker. Bert Tucker was assisted by people like him um, in the diaspora. Nur Muhammad came out of Oakland, California, with the branch of the Nation of Islam. He was an official representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who sent him to Belize to establish businesses, establish a community, a mosque, and to also connect. He was the liaison between the fish business. The Nation of Islam was big business people, like the UNIA. They were about self-sufficiency and building on, as we know, if you study the history of and they still are, when Mr. Farrakhan's visit to Belize and visiting the Mennonites and digging up agriculture, they are doing it themselves. They're not talking about it. And they have been doing that from the 60s. Nur Muhammad's role was to bridge that gap between the businessmen out of the nation who was trying to get into the Caribbean to bring out fish and seafood, and they were interested in Belize's product, and he was the man behind that. So here you had a Belizean working in the diaspora for Belize through other bodies. And when we talk about the Belizean diaspora, we don't and the work done, we don't necessarily have to talk about what Belizeans did directly from the US, the UK, wherever they are to Belize, but how they were working with alliances, in the United States, in Africa, as we talk about Odinga Lumumba and his work there with Jerry Rawlings, right? We talk about Bert Tucker work as the economic advisor to Maurice Bishop of Grenada as an economist that just graduated from the University of the West Indies, became the economic consultant to Michael Manley.
I
We're talking
think
about Ernest Lyons, who became the American U.S. ambassador to Liberia, that that was in this shuffle with Du Bois and them against Amin and Garvey, who wanted blacks to go back to Africa, and Lyons was one of the one that was saying no, you know, was a Belizean. Um, so it doesn't necessarily have to be directly from from where we are living abroad directly to government, but how we work with the world, the impact the Belizeans in the diaspora had wherever they live abroad, that they were pivotal. Brother had alliances with Chicano, American Indian organizations. Our alliances were big. We were not only this little grassroots Belizean organization, but we were huge globally. And we were able to interview the president of Haiti, Aristide, long before he became president on the Belize Caribbean show, which ran for 10 years, serving the West Coast, KPFK, the Pacifica Radio Network, KPFK, and WBIA in New York. Belize Caribbean Pulse was heard. Um, we interviewed so many heads of state. Nur Muhammad again. After so many hosts that we tried, because I produced the show, I couldn't host it. And he came in and he just brought in a whole huge global audience because of his internationalism. And
what
that's when
I
he came
but
to
what
Chicago and
I
joined us.
just want to,
Yeah.
not to interrupt you, but one of the things that I want to say about Brother Nure Mohammed is that we have a culture in Belize. I think that when we see people who are dynamic, outspoken, and stuff, we try to shut them down. We try to almost put people in their place, right? But I find that Brother Nuri and the whole CREM organization, they're kind of opposite of that. They see potential in that fire. And when they see the fire, they feel like, oh, let's fan it because it's something that can burn and create some change that's positive in the Belizean community. That's where my biggest respect comes from it because, a lot of people think that if you're outspoken or if you speak on certain issues, let's shut it up. We don't want to hear about it. We don't want to think about it. They have been pioneering in that aspect, and I think this is where you have to give the respect on that aspect, in the fact that a lot of these types of history that you're even raising, or even a Nuri Mohammed, would not be able to exist without a CREM organization that backs it up. Most of the other media sources are toe the line, they are very careful, or they swing one way or the other. Um,
And as you
you
said
have to
that,
think about
Aria,
Miss Sister Yaya. Like, think about
yeah,
Sister Yaya.
as you said that, let me inject before you go any further. Stick up in there because I want you to continue with that thought. A very good thought. We cannot forget Evan X. Hyde
Of course, I
and
mean,
the impact that let me break it down to you. The support that Evan X. Hyde gave to the Belizean diaspora long before CREM, but through a mandala. Through a mandala. But before he even formed a mandala, through UBAD,
right.
the United Black Association for Development. When that man came from out of Dartmouth, he wrote a pivotal book, one of the most racist part of the American society in New Hampshire, right? And he wrote a book called American Blues. It was a required reading for me at St. Michael's College High School. And it was one of the first books that I had read about from a Belizean author. I didn't read Becca Lam yet, but I read that. But it gave me a perspective of what the United States was all about. He talks about the civil rights movement. We were seeing these things in ebony magazines and jets in the 70s. We had no idea until Evan X. Hyde came out of New Hampshire at Dartmouth University and tell us in American blues what the United States racism and the Black conscious movement, he met people like Stokely Carmichael. He saw he was in the middle of Malcolm's Nation of Islam, the middle of a lot of these, the civil rights movement and Dr. Martin Luther King. And so here he was, that was the level of consciousness that he brought out. So if we want to say one of the catalysts of the Belizean diaspora that returned from out of the universities, out of one of the most top Ivy League schools of America, with the United States, and went home. He didn't come back here. He went home and he made history by forming an organization called the United Black Association for Development, that many of them were a part of. Nur Muhammad, a lot of these dynamic brothers and sisters. But he also opened up the thought that the Belizeans in the diaspora should be embraced. Because when the Amandala newspaper was formed, which was an organ of UBAD, Evan X. Hyde in his columns would always, and in his articles would always champion the Belizeans and their work that they have done for the United States abroad. The newspaper by itself. So,
And with that
see,
thought, I'd just like to bring Verlene into the conversation because I think Verlene at one point worked with Amandala Verlene, or was it? She actually wrote articles back then for Amandala, and this year we brought Verlene in as part of our organizing team because Verlene and I have done some organizing with the Civic Fellowship Program with young people. So Verlene, could you just, I know you've been sitting here listening to a little bit of the history. You're on mute, so go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your organizing in the Belize diaspora.
So hi everyone. Good night. I've been listening to the conversation, very interesting. And I've seen the timeline. And it's just amazing to see the groundwork that's been done. And, you know, we are on shoulders of really great Belizeans. And Bert Tucker, very impressive to me. When I worked at CREM, I had, so it wasn't a Mandala, it was CREM.
Okay.
I wrote for the Belize Times, so quick correction there. But absolutely would make sure when, you know, I was in school at Valdosta State that I would get a Mandala reporter. Pulse at the time, I think Pulse might have already been done away.
Guardian.
It was Guardian, correct, Guardian. So all the newspapers. So indeed, I think that Amandala and Prem really pushed the whole diaspora thing and made us stay connected to Belize because we were able to go ahead and read the newspapers.
Before social media, young people
Before,
there was
yes,
a time
you knew exactly
when there was
what.
no such thing
I
as social media.
remember Verlene. I used to get me Leah Mandela, subscribe to it, the mail, the mailbox.
Yes,
Felt nice, and I opened up the
Felt
copy
like a
there.
prize when you see a
absolutely.
mandala abroad. Felt like a gift.
Yeah. So it made being away from home bearable, right? In those first few years, until you weren't a student anymore and you were able to work and get your plane ticket and go back as often as you needed to. But no, I'm happy to be a part of the organizing team. Like you said, Aria, you and I have done work together before and pulled Rishma in on the Civic Fellowship. So
Yeah.
I think as a trio, we have fun working together on meaningful things that's always linked to Belize, right? Because while we give our hearts, we also, I think, with this Diaspora Summit, want to make the point of people don't want to just give their hearts, right? Their skill sets, and there's work that can be done that we are here and we want to be a part of it. Out of the summit, we would love to be able to get the groundwork and I guess a skeleton framework of what a policy would be with how the government engages the diaspora, right? So while we're happy for a diaspora unit, a ministry for diaspora, there has to be a policy that shapes what that engagement looks like, right? And so legislation for us is very important because we don't want to just give our voices, right? A lot of us have retirement plans of moving back home. So there are key things, key areas that if we can give meaningful assistance in developing the country more, right? In areas of health, right? For us, I would say selfishly, right? We would need the healthcare industry to be more progressive because when you move back home, one of the things you're getting older, one of the things you'll need is good healthcare, right? And so with all of that is, you know, we've shaped what I would say the panel discussions would be around major things that are meaningful and important, especially with the skill sets and the talent that has left Belize, but we're not divorced from Belize, right? We absolutely want to be able to contribute.
That's why I love the policy idea because Verlene, I remember I had a small stint at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1999 to 2000, and I remember talking to David Gibson. And when I first got on board on the job, right, and he said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "You know what? I would love to see that what I would love to do is to construct a foreign policy for Belizeans abroad." And he shook his head. He said, "Well, boy, that's a big task." David Gibson, God bless the dead, as my mother would say, right? He was the CEO of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs under the Said Musa government. And when you talk about, that's one of the things I love about this second annual Belize Diaspora Summit because I see policy to devise or to construct a policy for Belizeans in the diaspora, which is very needed. We can have all we can have, and we can do it if we don't have a policy. And this is one of the things that I used to love with Bert Tucker because he was building on that policy. He used to share the ideas with me as a man that worked in foreign policy, that worked in international relations. And when I mentioned it to David Gibson, he was, man, you know, he says it will be a tough task because we have government that basically feels that all these consulates that are abroad, it's a waste of money. That's what he was telling me, right? That
Lately,
they
I'm
are not
feeling
doing
so.
anything to help to develop Belize itself. So,
But Bilal, you know what,
you know,
too? And I just to go back to the policy issue, during the election, the US election, you know, the Indian community is becoming a very powerful immigrant community in the US now.
absolutely.
And one of the things that they did before the election, they brought their people together and they had all these discussions about which US politicians were beneficial to their cause and why they felt certain things or how they should vote. So they're moving, and you know, I always use the Jews as an example because they're a very successful immigrant group along with the Cubans. Those are America's three most successful historical immigrant groups, right? And one of the reasons, and actually Caribbean is actually up there with them.
Look here,
To be
Guyana and
honest,
Trinidad, Guyana has a Muslim East Indian prime minister that is dynamic. Okay,
Yes,
I mean this is the
absolutely.
land of Walter
Absolutely.
Radney. All right,
But you
I
know what they
mean,
do? They utilize their diaspora.
Yes,
Yep.
Jamaica
they use their
utilizes
diaspora to
their
advocate.
diaspora.
Yeah.
Um,
Guyana
and
does the
we
same.
have Belizeans as high up as one Belizean, and I don't know if that person actually applied for their Belizean citizenship, but we know was it Bert Tucker's son that was in the White
right.
House
There you go,
working with the
Lauren.
Vice President of the United States. My
Mhm.
gosh, I keep thinking about that, and I'm like, imagine Belize actually had somebody in the halls of power, but because
So
we are
we have so
we don't have a
Rishma, you
policy.
Guyanese, right, Rishma?
Yes, I am.
We don't
Rishma sits there quiet. Look here,
I
your
am no,
brother.
no, no, no. I mean, I'm here to promote our Belize Diaspora Summit, but
No, 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 no. But
I'm
when you're
also
talking about a
Guyanese,
diaspora,
right? And so I'm also
you
on the
have to
board of the
be inclusive.
Guyanese
That's why I talk
American
about Bert
Chamber.
Tucker because he was Caribbean. He
right.
Yeah,
moved
exactly.
Caribbean
So
into Belize.
The Caribbean is
exactly.
identified as a
Brother,
successful diaspora
three
group
of the
in the
We're
most
Caribbean.
dynamic
huge.
members of Brother was from Guyana.
Yeah.
But
Erlen Bishop, Michael
Bilal,
Branch.
think about this. The United States celebrate Caribbean American Month
We have a
Yes.
in
month.
June.
We have a whole
You gotta
month.
We
think
have a whole
outside
month
of
that
that
they
box.
celebrate with
Yeah.
us.
Yes.
And this
And
is
I did
telling
not
you that
know,
the
when
Caribbean is a
I said,
powerful group.
who is that girl up there so dynamic in that Belize conference, that diaspora conference? I didn't know. I thought Rishma was an equally girl from Belize, but
Everyone something.
Aria told me that no, Rishma.
No, but it's interesting. Just a little background, because my
Yeah,
family moved to
man.
Guyana. Sorry, moved from Guyana. Well, actually from Barbados to Belize when I was about 6, I think. Enrolled me in St. Joseph. So I went to St. Joseph, SCA, SJJC, and then I went to college. So during that time, I think the only person who was out of my family who was not born in Guyana was my youngest sister, RT, and she's going to be on the youth panel. She's the only born Belizean, but all of us are naturalized. And my dad actually served as the honorary consulate for Guyana in Belize
Look
at
at
some
that.
point. I don't remember the years.
Dynamic history.
I'm right. I'm
And your
fuzzy
dad
about
was
the
the
years.
DPP at
And my
one
dad was a
in
DPP
Belize.
twice for the government of Belize. But he through that diplomatic service, I got an idea of what representation looks like, right? And so he was the hub for the Guyanese. So I met all the influential Guyanese that were living in Belize at the time, because again, my dad was the hub for that. And as we sit here and we speak, I just got a text from the Guyanese American Chamber of Commerce, which I also sit on that board, and they're going to be having a grand opening of the World Trade Center Georgetown in October.
And we're going.
And they want the
That's
Belizean
what I'm talking
community,
about.
they want the entire Caribbean community to be involved. So I literally just sent a message saying, let's have the chamber print out flyers and we'll have it at the summit. Because I think it's really important to have that
Very good.
franchise within the Caribbean is awesome. And then our Belizean representative in Guyana has her office at the World Trade Center, Georgetown.
Alliances.
So all these alliances are
And
happening.
they donated.
And they donated because
for this event.
exactly. So the person who got
What
the
it is,
franchise
man.
for the World Trade Center is also the executive director of Demerara Distilleries that makes El Dorado rum, my favorite rum in the Caribbean. Sorry, Belize, but that is my favorite rum in the Caribbean. And they ended up donating to our summit. So I think that
Awesome.
again, all the synergies all around, and Guyana has boomed since the oil.
Fastest growing country in
Fastest
the
growing
Caribbean.
country. They have boomed. So I'm definitely going to be helping the cause of the Guyanese American Chamber to try to put together a delegation for October, because I
Yes,
think
I
it's
see.
important
And you
for
already have
all of us,
committed people like myself and others
right?
that said that they're going.
We need because
Guyana
this
from
is a
Fort Bornham. Guyana was always at the back on the backbone of agriculture because one
yeah,
of the sayings of Fort Bornham was, "Every mouth shall be fed from the cradle
rice.
to
I
the grave."
mean,
Tell me if I'm wrong,
we
Risma.
yes, I mean Guyana's huge rice producers. They were for a
Yes,
very long time. Rice farming was a huge
every
industry
mouth.
there. My dad was a rice farmer in his youth,
Mm.
right? So just to show some of the evolution, I always tell him to write a book because his evolution is fantastic. But he's from a very humble background of rice farmers, to become the DPP of Belize. I mean, that's talk about a hill, a really steep slope, right?
When you talk
But
about the
And
dynamic Teddy
Rishma found
Jagan,
out my dad and
the
her dad used
dynamic
to
Teddy
hang out
Jagan,
at one point.
Teddy Jagan was also another pillar of Ghana. So the Caribbean has
dynamic prime minister.
strong leaders. And I have to say this one other point. I know I've told Aria this before, but through the BACC, the Belize American Chamber of Commerce, and this is pre-COVID, I had attended the Caribbean American Legislative Week that the Caribbean that celebrated in June every month. I'm sorry, every year
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill. So at the time, I think it
Wow.
was, again, I think it's 29, I want to say 2018, 2019, because it was pre-COVID. They were talking about the impact of de-risking for the banks in the Caribbean, because that's what was happening all over. Belize was affected as well. So they asked me, as someone who works in private practice, who is an attorney, I'm a business law attorney, we want to hear from the private sector, come to Capitol Hill during Caribbean American Legislative Week and talk about de-risking. So I happily booked my flight and went, and I had my speech prepared, and I spoke to the delegation that was there. I was the only Belizean in that entire room. And
Wow.
I was so upset. You would think that I would be flying high, the only Belizean. No, I was actually very upset. Every other country had some sort of delegation there.
Representative.
And they had their consulates there, they had their ambassadors there, they had business people that were there, other dignitaries that were there. I was the only person. And I didn't go with the intention of representing Belize. I was talking about the private sector and how banking affected my clients and things of that nature. And I just thought to myself, this is where Verlene talks about policy. This is where we need to have a presence and a policy within just our Caribbean community and the US.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And that was,
I wanna add some color to Rishma and the work that people like Devin Young. Can you hear me?
yeah, no, I'm saying you're
Okay,
adding
like
color
the
to me.
work like Michael Young did, because I don't think
Absolutely.
people appreciate some of the things that
Michael Young still with you guys, right?
he is, but he's off right now. But he did get a sponsorship from
Yes,
Southwest,
we're very
so
happy.
I am very happy for that.
Very dynamic
Um,
brother.
Absolutely.
he is one person that I always see, or when you talk about organizer, he is one of those organizer, but he loves Belize so much that he just gives away everything. And I don't know if people value that because, listen, I live in Pasco County, Florida, right? And Devin is like, hey, did you know that the Pasco Economic Development Council, like he did this research, he's like, it's so similar to Cayo District. Let's bring the Cayo District mayor to Pasco County so that they can see whether or not they have any synergies and stuff like that. So when they came over, the economic development guy said, you know, we do a lot of sister city relationships and they don't really turn into anything. But I'm telling you, when Pasco County came in, they really showed around, and it was a PUP and it was a UDP mayor and a PUP councilor.
Hmm.
They took them to meet all the different mayors. They showed them around the economic areas. They showed them ways that they could collaborate. In fact, when we went to the school, the robotic school, because they have a school that deals with same thing Belize is doing, a trade school. You don't have to go to high school. You do trade instead. When we went to the school, the robotics team were like, hey, you guys are from Belize. We heard you guys are great in Belize.
Hmm.
I just look at that and I was amazed because here they were just offering all this stuff for us, and nobody was there to really capture what they were offering. And that's my thing. Without a policy, you walk into these scenarios where they're offering you opportunities to collaborate, to do student exchanges, to get a lot of stuff. But because the policy isn't there, and because it seems like some of the communication is disjointed, or I'm not going to show up at your stuff, or you're dealing with personalities versus vision. Because if you have a vision, the personalities fall apart. If there's no vision, then the personalities become dominant.
Exactly.
And then it turns
Yeah.
into if I like you, if I not like you,
Yeah.
Exactly.
that
And
it becomes ridiculous, right?
Talking
So
about that,
this
I
is
just
why
want
we
to
need a vision.
I want to piggy on that. I remember when Bertocco was working in Southern Africa. This is the apartheid movement. He used to come into LA and consult with brother. He pulled out he pulled out the public administration system of Namibia that he was constructing. I'm like, boss, you don't believe in that. What you do? How do people bring you in for to do that? Right? No, he was actively involved in the apartheid movement, right? Working with the frontline states and Namibia. I said, Bert, are you serious? He showed us the whole document. He said and it will be his PhD dissertation. At the time he was doing his PhD dissertation at UCLA, but this was work on the ground. He was on the ground in South Africa, on the ground in Namibia, on the ground in Angola, all those places, working as a UN Sustainable Development Consultant in economics. And when I saw that, I was like, but shouldn't that be constructed by somebody with come from that place, brother? The way you said, no, this is respect he had that that they gave him the policy to construct the policy,
Right.
and we saw the living document because he was so brilliant in terms of constructing these kinds of things, and he was just saying that always beliefs need to be on this level,
But we need more than
and that I
policy.
am
We need
operating on.
policy.
But
We need policy.
yeah,
We need somebody for implement it. But more
Implementation.
importantly, we need a budget. We can't get things done if we're not given
yeah,
the right amount of money to get things done. I mean, it can't be tokenism. We have
Yeah.
to be serious about beliefs. You have one set of people that's contributing 15% of your entire economy. That's a significant group that should be given attention to and
attention,
should be given the
absolutely.
tools to build because
uh,
this, right now, Belize is going to face issues with its sugar industry. And then we're having the delays in tourism because you have all these policies with tariffs and different things. And so people are nervous about traveling. People are nervous about traveling back and forth in the US because they feel like they're going to be harassed and stuff like that. So it's having a cooling effect. Canadians are no longer flying through the United States. They're not using US
Fine.
carriers and stuff as a protest. Those things impact us in Belize. But guess who's always going to travel home? Belizeans.
Easiest.
I don't give a crap about anything else that happen. If you create a space for your diaspora, they will always be engaged. They want to buy from Belize, then they buy all in Belizean products. They will be coming to your hotels. They'll be buying your land. And so to me, I am so thankful for some of our sponsors because they actually understand that. They see that. They're like, hey, when everything go wrong, the Belizeans are the one that keeps the economy going. We have to remember tourists are not vested in Belize. It's a trip and then you have to go find new one. It's a trip, new one. You Belizeans, they're vested for life. They're vested for generations. They're vested when they bring their kids and give them Belizean citizenship.
Mhm.
That are vested, that are people that are going to build your economy. And so we as a people have to grow beyond personalities. We really have to grow beyond personalities. Belizeans in the US and abroad, we don't care about PUP, UDP nonsense. We want a country like Verlene said. We worry about health care. We're worried about our security. In fact, that's the number two things when I ask Belizeans, and they worry about infrastructure. So the first thing they're healthcare, the next thing they're security, and the third thing they're infrastructure. I want to build in Belize. I want to make sure that where I'm building is safe. And I want to know that if I'm sick, I can get the care. Those are three policies that would benefit Belizeans at home, Belizeans abroad. It would be universal. Nobody wants BEX if you create one system that is safe, we could have a good system with health and where your infrastructure is good. Who are vexed with that? But we
As you
also
talk
want
about
our
healthcare,
voting rights. We still want with
yeah,
voting rights, and we still want with senatorship, because that's something I think we should get
yeah,
as Belizeans abroad. If the churches could have a senator and
The
not one of them
NGOs
that
there you
originally
go.
from Belize,
Yes.
and the
if the
NGOs.
NGOs could have a senator and they're dominated by foreigners, the person that is giving 15% to your economy should get a senator, I think.
Yeah.
And
And Berlin, I
the
think I
same.
see an article by you. I think you're the right about healthcare in Belize Times. I remember sending it to you, sending it to your cousin Verlene, a name just like you, also. And she
Actually,
said, no, 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 me, that Verlene Pitts. So, gal,
yes,
I know you were a prolific writer, and I think that article was on healthcare. You were
it,
writing for the
it,
Belize Times.
it,
As
it
Aria is mentioned, you look like you're big on healthcare.
yes, it's very important,
Really?
because whether you're in Belize or you're away from Belize, you're still connected, and healthcare is something that affects everybody. And the crazy thing about it is that even if you have a lot of money or if you don't, sickness are for everybody, right?
And
And
long-term
so,
sickness is expensive.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
expensive, right? It can deplete your funds. And sometimes even if you have money, you may not have time to be able to fly out and seek the care and all of that stuff. So for us, I think, if in Belize we can move the healthcare industry forward, that is going to be major. I mean, health is wealth, really, right? Because you can have a lot of money and you're sick and you can't enjoy it.
When you
So
go to
for
a
me, it's
facility,
it's very, very important.
I
exactly, and
remember
you go to a
interviewing
facility that
the,
doesn't have any resources, they
yeah,
don't have medications, they don't have the equipment that you need. No amount of money is going to get you out of that situation.
I remember
How about
And,
an
and I
interviewing
wanted
accident
to,
or
Samuels,
accident,
right?
something that is
Hmm.
unexpected could happen to you,
Yeah, yeah,
and all the money in the world is not going to save you if your healthcare system
yeah, yeah.
isn't intact.
I remember interviewing Lennox Samuels and asking this. He lives in Thailand. He is Belize's world international journalist that writes for Newsweek Time. Sort of 30 years in with American mass media, right? And so he said, medical care and healthcare, even in Thailand. He said you see where the Hun Sen and the top elite, they fly out to go to get medical care. But you see people in their yard with drip, right? They pour it. He said Belize is the same place. He said, and Belize is no different from other parts of the world, like in Asia, where he lives. He is now a publicist for one of the top Asian newspapers, right? And I would have hoped that would have got probably Nelak Samuels probably the next to sit on one of to be a part of that panel, because he's Belize's World International journalist that had covered so many top stories
We
in the
wanted to do
world.
media. We
I mean,
actually
next
had
year
media as one, but
yeah.
we just
we
limited
have,
it to four. But
we have
next
to
Before,
cut.
year
right?
we can take on
Which is
media.
so good. But we have this personality here. And the interview was so broad-based, and I was like, Lennox, you were out there doing all of that? And as a Belizean, but so when Nur Muhammad interviewed him, he went home. I helped set up his itinerary. His alma mater was SJC, where he got an open scholarship to go study at Marquette University. And he said, I went to UB. He says, but I thought I would have seen a university, right? Because he said, I've lectured in South Africa, Japan. And he said, I was brought to the Silvana Woods hall to speak. And he said the hall got full with students. When he first got up, he said as soon as he talked for 10 minutes, everybody left. He said, why are Belizean students so disengaged? He said, if I was speaking in Japan of the same political, I say he was talking about global politics. He said that they would have asked for an encore. Right? And I think that I like to hear that UB is coming aboard in this second annual diaspora conference because we have our Belizean diaspora giants like Leonard Samuels who have gone and said that we don't have journalists in Belize, Bilal. I see reporters. And he ended up training 250 after his second visit to Belize, which include the police press secretary. Because here are people who are going in and looking and say, I want to make a difference here. Um, he was to cover the SARS student. And I think we'll be here. He followed on that because this was going to be in the news week because of the Belize Anglo Guatemalan claim, according to him, it's not in the news. He said they probably take that and throw it in the trash. He said, I run the Washington Bureau. I run the Mexican, I run the Bureau for United States Bureau in Mexico, covering the cartels. I mean, I covered the Persian Gulf War, the Iraqi War. I met General ID. I interviewed Margaret Thatcher. Right? Yeah.
The thing is,
So
Bilal,
when he comes in and he says, we need to develop our country better. We need to have a better university because
but more than that, Bilal, we need to celebrate Belize excellence. You know, one of the criticism I saw about the flyer is like, why everybody got a doctorate degree? Or one doctor, FYI, everybody doesn't. But what is wrong with celebrating Belizean excellence? Like, you know,
yes,
for
indeed.
me, every time a foreigner got to Belize and a some superstar and everybody want to take a picture with them. And how about with Belizeans? Like, this is why we started the Belize Diaspora Network. It was supposed to be a media source that celebrates Belize excellence abroad. What is wrong with celebrating hearing these guys' story? Because Belize, and this is the Belize, the Naval String Connections. When we interview people on this show, you say that they come from very humble beginnings. They come from poverty in many cases. Some of them not have any running water. And then later on in life, they have this success. But we not tell their stories. So by not telling their stories, our people in Belize not understand that success can be, but regardless of how you grow up, you can achieve success, right? Everybody we in Belize right now, I feel like we're very money focused. Oh, this one have money, that one have money. But we not dig deep into like where did this person come from. I think Naval String Connection does that. You find
Yes,
we
indeed, it
bring
does.
all these very achieve people who have achieved great things, and then you hear, "Wow,
Lennox
I got across the
Samuels
border
was on here,
through
right, Larry?
I got through the border
Lennox
through
Samuels
the
was on the
in
show.
our trunk of our car. Remember that interview?
Wow.
Lennox Samuels was on the show, right, Aria?
Yes, yes, yes.
We interviewed Lennox Samuels.
But
Yeah.
that's what
And
I'm
Dr.
saying. Belize
Calvin
has a
Bowles out of
lot to
Chicago.
offer its people back and forth. We have Belizeans
Yes.
that are back to school is going to come up. You will start seeing Belizeans pour into the youths in Belize, right? We have Belizeans where they sponsor a lot of kids for make sure
Backpack
that they could go to
drives,
school.
the
I
backpack
mean,
drives, all kinds of
we
things
need a
that
policy. We absolutely need a policy. This diaspora summit is serious. It's purpose driven. It comes with a vision, and we are one thing with us. We invite everybody to it. We
Yes.
invite all sides to this thing. We have Will Mejia that's going to be coming. We have all the different people, and to me, it's an opportunity for leaders to engage the Belizean diaspora and in a meaningful way because yes we got party and yes we got jump up and we got the food and everything, but we also need a serious aspect of building the nation of Belize. And Golson believe that Belize is bigger than just the geography of Belize. Belize is its people, right? I was telling Dr. Vernon in the email that I sent him, do you know in the census, Belize is described in the US Census as one of the largest non-Hispanic groups in the United States? And
Right.
remember, the census is
I didn't know that.
self-identifying. You know what? That the
Yeah.
highest Brazil with millions of people. That means that the Belizeans that fill out that census identify themselves. That's why they know that they're there. And we are considered one of the top 5 largest non-Hispanic group. You and I know that's not true. You
I was
can't tell
gonna
me
say
we not
that
got more
though.
Jamaicans.
That's
And we
Yeah,
not got
that's what I
more
was gonna
Trinidad.
say.
the
That's
flawed.
the
That is
truth.
obviously, but because we
That's true.
actually sat there and identified
That used to
ourselves.
be true. That used to be true. That's not true no more.
No.
But it was true in 2020 census. So it's showing that Belizeans are identifying themselves because that comes with pride. That's the only reason
Yes.
you would identify yourself, because you're prideful about where you come from. That's crazy to me, because it's like, how we the top 5 when I know Jamaica and Trinidad definitely have more
Exactly.
people over here.
Yeah.
But we're top 5 in the US Census right now, the US Census, with Brazil being number 1. We have millions of people in a foreign country. We can't even make up a city in America, Bilal, and we're the top 5.
Exactly.
I had a conversation with Yaya Marin, and I told her that the Belizeans in Los Angeles are the largest black immigrant group. Yeah, you got to bring evidence to sister. Yeah,
Right.
But it's true.
and
It is true.
She
True.
disputed me. And one day, he sent me a message. He said, "Why, Bilal, I gotta look up that thing." He said, "That's true." He sent me all the stats. I
Yes,
said,
that's why
And
we
it's
Karen
true.
started
Bass
in
know what
LA.
she was talking about. Karen
And
Bass, she's a
Of
politician. She's now
course,
the
that
mayor of Los Angeles.
politicians know when
She
they
know
talk
what
about
she's talking
current
about.
data all day.
Absolutely
exactly.
true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
That's why we started in
I
LA
wanted
for the
to
summit. That's
I wanted
exactly
to
why we
say
started. Go ahead, Verlin.
I wanted to say that I know you mentioned, Aria, a percentage in terms of like remittances and all of that stuff. But I think at the summit, what is going to be highlighted and ventilated will be that we will see that Belizeans here in the diaspora are doing more than that 15% with remittances, because the amount of volunteer work that people are doing that does not get a spotlight, right? The majority of Belizeans may not know that these things are happening. They may be just giving back to their school, and maybe outfitting a computer room. They may be donating equipment to a clinic. They may be going back and doing summer camps. They may be sending prom dresses for, people who are not able to afford it. The
Daily
number of
highlights,
things
mostly sponsored by the diaspora.
The unsung
mostly,
heroes
right?
and
So,
heroines.
so,
Yeah.
so the amount of things that are happening, that's not just about cash, right? It's about time, and it's about skills that's being given, right? And there's an exchange, right? There is a connection that we have to Belize. So it's not all that there's so much that's being given, because we're also getting, right? It's a fair exchange. And I think, once we all sit down, we want people from Belize and from the diaspora to sit down and come up with the policy, because again, it's a fair exchange. And so I'm excited to see all of that come out, where we're not just talking about remittances, because
And
people
when
think
we
bucks and
talk about
barrel and
policy too,
money.
Verlene, tell me if I'm wrong, Aria and Rishma, that this 7th Amendment issue, where the Musa administration had amended the Constitution and had actually taken away the rights of natural-born Belizeans to hold political office in Belize. That has to be a part of the issue of the and to vote. That has to be a part of policy, because we have a lot of Belizeans who are saying, "What's the sense of any Belize diaspora summit if you're not going to address that one?" That is very, very key, because government sometimes appears that they just we become the cash cow. The diaspora is the cash cow. We are this, we are that. You want from us, but what you have taken away from us, you don't want to give us back. And we
But
have
look
to
at some
make
of the
a serious point
representation.
on
I mean,
that
look at some of the
natural born
representation that
Belizean
we're
rights
getting.
has to be given back to them. Yeah.
I must
And I think that
admire
should be a
and
part of
thank
policy, right?
I thank Minister Fonseca for the clarity in saying that they're there to support the Belize diaspora. Because a lot of time Belizeans abroad don't feel like they have the right representation. So I think that for his policy, and I would want to see it from him, that they show that they truly are there to represent the Belizean narrative, the Belizean cause. Um, with this ICE issue that's going on in the United States, that's creating a lot of fear with a lot of people. What I saw from the Mexican, the Guatemalan, and the Honduran embassies is that they were giving their people information. Hey, if this happens, we are here to support you, get you the right counsel that you need,
Resources.
help
Yeah.
you through the process. If you need to fill out paperwork, we're here to see if you might qualify for services that you were not aware of. Where's that for Belizeans? You understand? Like we are under this impression, and it irks me a little bit that all the Belizeans who are abroad are somewhat under some ice watch. FYI, Belize probably has 200,000 when you think about third generation, and that's conservative. Maybe let's be conservative, 100,000. You have about 100,000 Belizeans that are full US citizens.
Yes.
That's 100,000 Belizeans right there that can benefit from these types of services that the Diaspora Summit provides. Information, how do I become engaged? How do I contribute my talent? How do I contribute my services? How do I connect with the right people within the Belize at home? Our community is so much bigger than ICE. Our community is all the way in the White House. Our community is top of the sports. We have Simone Biles. Yes, people argue blah blah blah, but she was raised by a Belizean mother. She visit Belize and she have a Belizean citizenship. She's a member of the Belize diaspora. You have people like Olin Simplis. You saw when they were doing the draft recently, he was there because he's there training athletes in the United States. We have Belizean actors that are identifying themselves as Belizeans. And like we have Vanessa Young daughter that's on her
Cara.
second
Cara
Tony
Young.
Award, and she was 3 times nominated. You have Coleman Domingo that has identified himself as Belizeans, and he is Oscar nominated. I'm not sure if he actually won. You have Belizeans when the pandemic, Channel 7 did it actually. They went through a list of all the Belizean doctors that are practicing in the United States and abroad. You have all these high-level nurses that are right below Dr. Vanessa Young is actually one of them, right? Then you have people that are in NASA, that are in science. You have these professors that are coming on the stuff. I mean, we're a dynamic community. And to be reduced to ice is very annoying to me. It's extremely annoying, and it undermines
And
and
disrespectful.
It's
condescending.
disrespectful.
It's
It's extremely
condescending. It's like
yeah.
saying, you guys don't matter. This is an immigration, but we do matter. And a lot of us have a very big voice in what we're doing and how we contribute back to Belize. So I think that we as Belizeans, we need to become serious minded when it comes to what we want for our country, what we want to develop, what we want to achieve. And let me tell you, I admire the Deputy Prime Minister for bringing his ministry, and also immigration for bringing the
Immigration.
ministry, because those are things that keep us connected. There's nothing more important than
Immigration
our
Minister,
soul.
ARIA?
Say that again.
Who is the immigration minister?
The
That
PM,
would
I
be,
think.
sorry?
Is it the PM?
Fonseca.
Oh, it's Fonseca. Okay.
Fonseca.
Yeah.
Fonseca will be attending, right?
No, he is not coming, but Lial is coming. The junior minister is coming to the event, and he will be on the youth panel because I believe he's one of the youngest ministers, and we thought that as a young minister, it was important because we want to hear what the young people are doing and how we can develop policy. We need their voices. We need them to start to step up and
Indeed.
hand over
And the
some of the
opposition,
torch
who
to
from the
them.
opposition? Because last year we were blessed with the Honorable Shines participating fully in that summit.
Well,
So
this year we
Mr.
did invite
Tega,
the
will
leader
be
of the
attending
opposition,
any
but
of the
we
Well,
did
we
invite
invited
her there,
her.
but she said she had a clash with some other things going on, and I think
Patrick,
they do.
Patrick, what's none of them
Well, Darrell will be there. I mean, I
from the
don't know if he's
United
considered
Democratic Party. I
opposition,
mean,
but he's going to
being as the mayor.
be one
I
of the
think
people there.
I think we can consider him
I mean,
representing
he
because
represented
he was a
under you.
former
Right.
senator.
Yeah. So
I
he,
mean, I don't like me personally, I don't care about the politics of it. I think it's in all of their best interest to come and talk to the
Absolutely,
Belizean diaspora. That's just my opinion.
absolutely. I would that with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely so.
I think sometimes, I would suspect that people can take a view of I'm dealing with voters, right? So I can remember before I was old enough to vote, and politicians coming and maybe passing the house because you didn't have voting age
Yeah.
people there. And maybe they already knew, who your parents would vote for. And, it's interesting. And I remember asking about that. And I was told when your name is there and you're registered, they know. And so if you're not a registered voter, you don't really have a voice. And so they're not really reaching out to you. And so it could make you think the same way with the diaspora, right? That sometimes people might not feel that it's super important to come and reach out because we don't have voting rights. So what does it really matter, right? And so this in itself is a reason for us to go ahead and advocate for ourselves and to make sure that we're not disenfranchised, right? I'm not saying that things will change overnight and one summit or two summits will change things, but I think that highlighting exactly how we contribute and highlighting exactly how we want to continue to work together and to be a part of development in the country will eventually get to where we need to be, where what they take far away, we could get back,
Get
right?
back. Yeah, I just say that I
as
want to rock the piano.
co-citizens.
We got in the background the ball. Look on the piano. We got back to man. I want to open it up.
Can you play, Verlene? Can you play?
A couple songs because I did.
You play
I did
music
have
early.
lessons.
You're musically inclined.
I have musicians in the household, so I'll go ahead and say
I
that
know
that's
Mr.
our point.
Pizza. I know he definitely is a musician.
He definitely is an artist, though. Her husband
yeah.
is an artist. So, yeah.
That piano behind the background there, like man. I mean, first thing if I walk in your house, I go straight on that.
Oh, good. Well, you're invited.
Yes, man. Yes, man. But so much, the idea of policy, I think that's like the root of the diaspora summit. It's the root of it. We cannot come out of it to say, okay, after all is said and done, after all the discussions and so on, what then is the policy for the Belizean diaspora?
Right.
You know?
And
I
I think,
think
I'll be honest with
if we
you.
cannot come out without that, we cannot, we have not
Well,
attained
we've
that
come a
just
long way,
objective.
Bilal. We come from the strike down the amendment and to voting us no for the ICJ to hey, we got
Yeah,
one ministry, we got a whole ministry now, and
And
we
an
have
ambassador.
And I
Yeah.
think it's up to us in the Belize diaspora to know what to ask. You have to ask for it to be at least considered,
indeed.
Absolutely.
And I want to say thank you to the Ministry of Tourism, Sports, and Diaspora Relations because they are giving us sponsorship for the event.
Big up to Minister Marla.
right? I wish he would come, just saying. And then we have the Ministry of the Natural Resources. That's another big issue that ties us to our land and ties us to Belize. So that's important, and I'm so happy that they decided to come. And of course, the immigration that gives us our identity as Belizeans. So I think the three, we're getting into the relationship. We're still in a really courting stage, but now we need a proposal. We need the ring, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We need it
Well,
to
maybe
be
we're not getting
the
ring right
marriage
away,
to
but
Good way to
happen.
say it,
we need
Aria.
the
The
we
We
need
we
the
tired of the
proposal.
courting. I'm tired of the courting now. The time for
Yeah,
make we get
man.
serious.
That's
We'll
funny.
talk serious now in the
That's
Yeah,
funny.
tired of sweet
stage.
words. We need action now.
and I
And
know.
listen, the Prime Minister did facilitate me when I went to Belize. He did not have to do that. And I give respect to that because, at least to me, they're giving recognition to the Belize diaspora.
Correct.
And I feel like it's going to grow. It's going to grow. And I
Big
want
up to the
more
Britannia
people to
Gov
become
administration.
involved.
They were the first to put diaspora on one of their ministries and
Right.
have
Correct.
participated in the first annual Belize Diaspora Summit. And the
Right.
Prime Minister, Johnny Briceño, was attending. So he came and he made history. So
And
give
it's
him
now
respect.
up to us.
Big
It's
time
now
respect.
up to us to either build it. There,
Mm.
nobody's gonna hand you anything in life. You have
And
to
we're gonna
build it.
build it
You
for
have to
sure.
build it.
Demand.
And us in the diaspora, we can't sit around and wait for somebody else to give us what we claim we want. We have to be the ones to ask
As Frederick Douglass says, power does
and
not
build.
succeed to any, but a demand. You have to demand from power.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
But
Demand
with
and
that
build.
said, we're 2 minutes away. So just to wrap up a little bit, Rishma, could you go through the event, and then Verlene, the panels, can Verlene organize the panels?
Right.
And then the immigration, we didn't talk about it. We're having an immigration townhouse that's being
Town hall.
facilitated by Florida International University School of Law. So they're going to be there also, along with Darrell Bradley and the
Immigration.
CEO of Immigration, and that one is going to be moderated by Candice Gibson, and also he's going to do a book reading, his book 5 Trips, and he has a very compelling story in that book.
I'm
People
excited
really
to hear
should check
that.
it out.
Let's
But
do day 1, day 2,
as
day
we wrap
3.
up,
Aria, let's do day 1, day 2, day 3 so people know what to expect.
go ahead.
Okay, so for the first day of the summit, all 3 days, let's start with all 3 days. We're going to have a land clinic and an immigration clinic. We have a kiddie corner for those who are bringing young children. And then we're going to have a display of Belizean vendors that are going to be in the outside hall. So all 3 days, we'll have those 3 things. The first day, we're going to focus on the panels, and I'll let Verlene talk about the 4 panels.
Okay, so we have 4 panels. The first panel will lay the groundwork for the panels that follow. We will have a policy panel. On that panel, we have Dr. Vernon, we have Dr. Arnold, and there's a third person. I need to look at the flyers.
You have Dr. Trumbach.
Dr. Trumbach on there. And so we are having an education perspective, a business perspective, and then Dr. Vernon actually he's leading the Institute of Research at UB. So it's Belpre and policy research. So we're hoping that this can start the formation of the policy. We're not expecting that a policy will be written right away here, but after that first panel, they'll go into a working meeting so that they can start to lay the groundwork, so that we know that we're not just talking and we're getting work done. The second panel is the healthcare panel, and we're going to there discuss some of the things that the panelists on that panel are contributing to Belize, whether it's taking doctors there that are specialists, whether it is donating equipment. There are a number of things that the panelists are engaged in,
new school,
giving back.
medical school.
to Belize, and then we'll have we'll talk about the medical wing, the School of Medicine at UB as well, and we'll talk about how can we contribute and what synergy can happen there. Then the third panel is the education panel. And that panel, we will be discussing education and how we're giving back as well. And then what are some of the things that can be put in the pipeline for us to go ahead and contribute and help to develop education in Belize. And then the last panel is the youth panel. And they are going to be talking about how they're engaged, right? Whether it's on TikTok and on social media and all of that. And they're going to be talking about what opportunities exist for them to contribute to Belize. Some of them are students here. And so they may have intentions of returning home. What does that look like? Or if they're going to stay here, right? What does that look like? And then just really talking about what can they learn from the older generation, and then also what can we learn from them as youth. So that's the panel. After each of the panels, we will have working meetings. So the panelists will go off and we'll make sure that we capture information, document, so that we could start to build a framework for the policy.
Thank you. So day 2, we're going to start with business highlights. We're going to allow our sponsors and our supporters 5 minutes each to talk about their organizations, their companies, their projections, any activities they have coming up in the future. And it's a way for them to be able to let the Belizean community know what's happening. After that, we're going to have our first paid event, which is a business mixer. And that's going to come with refreshments and a way for us to have more of a networking. After that, we're going to have a game hour hosted by Destiny Wagner. As you guys know, Miss Earth, I believe it was 2019, Miss Earth, Destiny Wagner, and she has a game, the only Belizean game I know that's called What You to Say? 2021, okay.
Innovation right there.
What you to say? So she's going to have a game hour and we can play and get to know her business and her game. Then the second paid event at 7 o'clock on Friday is going to be a play called Makobi that's written and I believe directed as well by Ray Gongora.
Yeah, big players, the legend.
Exactly. Very famous in South Florida. Everyone knows Ray. We call him El Rey.
Legend.
Right? So his play, El Rey. So his play is going to start at 7. That's the second paid event. After that, we break for the day. We come back on Saturday, which is day 3. And we're going to start with the immigration town hall that ARIA described. It's an opportunity for everyone to come out, ask their questions from an actual attorney, educator, academic, and get real, not sensationalized media information, but real information. After that, we're going to have the book signing and interview with Candice Gibson. And then we break and we come back. Well, we're going to have a closing ceremony / after party at La Veranda in Plantation, hosted by DJ Special. And that closes out the 3 days of our summit.
Awesome.
And next year, our eyes is on Chicago. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on Naval Street.
Chicago, not New York?
No, I think I will be in Chicago.
Come on, New York is like the oldest Belizean diaspora. What's up with that?
Listen, I never object to a New York
area
trip.
to host anything too.
What?
Listen, I never object
we
to
can
a
put
New York
the diaspora summit in New York.
But our area may be on the ground in Chicago, so that's a really strong, compelling reason. When we have somebody on the ground that can get location and all that.
Following up, going to the event space, dealing with the people. That it's a lot of stuff.
It's a heavy lift.
Yeah.
So that's what's compelling. But New York is always calling.
I know what it's like to put off the thing because I guess New York is too expensive, no?
It's extremely
It's
expensive.
Yeah.
expensive, and like Aria said, we don't have anyone on the ground. Like I can't tell you how many times me and Verlene
Oh, my Vanessa,
we've
what
attended.
happened?
But they're doing their own thing. So it's not like you
Yeah.
could just say, hey, come do this for me. Like, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
It has to be properly organized.
yeah.
And the
You
I'll go
make
organizing,
after
Compton,
Chicago. After
I don't
you
think
Chicago.
make
people
Compton
appreciate
Fair
the
the turn wrong in
organizing
a grave,
aspect of
man.
it.
Well,
You make
listen,
Compton Fair the turn wrong in a grave.
after
Like,
Chicago, our eyes will turn to New York, and I do not object to going for maybe 3, 4 weeks to be on the ground and to do some of the groundwork.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to make sure that in the building stages is where it needs the most work. So I can't tell you how many times me and Verlene, and even me, Verlene and Aria have been to this venue,
Yep.
talking to the organizer, talking to the event managers, putting things
Going
together.
through
It's
contracts,
going
getting
through
people to
contracts,
support
talking
us.
to sponsors, being on the phone every day with one supporter or the other, trying to go through logistics.
And
It's a
it's not
lot of
cheap.
work.
It's really not cheap. I mean, this
Yeah.
is labor of love. Like we were like, why the heck are we doing this to
At,
ourselves?
at least once
Honestly.
a
like
week, me and Aria
ladies.
are like, why are we doing this? But I mean, it
Like,
really is, it takes a lot of like work. I know when you see it, you come and everything is hopefully working out smoothly and it's amazing to look at. But think about all the work that it takes in the background to get us to where we
I
are.
remember
So it,
I remember
we're
walking
all
with
three
Mose.
professionals. We're all three
we
working
all have
our
day
real
jobs.
jobs.
We're all
And
working
this
our own
is
jobs.
part-time.
This is
So
after
You
hours.
guys stand on the shoulders of giants because those that came before you and have left and has gone before you has did the same.
yeah.
Yeah,
They juggled 3 careers.
Yeah.
They were
yeah.
professional people and they organized some of the outstanding, like Eddie Lang. You are a professor, you work and you gonna come and set up consortium and write the bylaws.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have
But
to
like
do that.
me and Verlene, at least we could say we have grown kids.
Yeah.
I
Rishma
have
still have
little
babies
kids
at
that I'm
home.
still taking
Yeah.
care of. So
Yeah.
no,
So
it
But
becomes quite a
it's
it's taxing,
taxing.
but it's very, very fulfilling to see what could possibly
yeah,
come out of
Yeah.
this. So in
Yeah.
the ground,
very
in the
much so.
building phase, we need someone on the ground, and Aria may be on the ground in Chicago next year. So that's what I'm saying. We have to kind of have people that are dedicated on the ground, and
Yeah.
And
maybe in the
we need
upcoming
people who
years.
are purpose driven because the
Mm,
reason why we get it done, and it's just people who, when you tell them to do something, it's done and they organize and stuff. I think that's the difference. Like, that makes things work. Like me and Verlene, when we did the civic fellowship stuff, we used to have working meetings on Zoom. Like we'll sit there, or me and Rishma, we'll
mm,
sit there and work and do the work there. Like,
Yeah.
um,
If there's
and
somebody to call, you call right away while you're
yes.
at the meeting. If
something
there's
to
somebody
write, you
to
write it
email, you're
right away.
emailing right away,
Right
right?
away.
So
I know,
whatever you
Bilal, for
say
we
you're doing,
Belizean people,
you
everybody
do
want
it.
an invitation, and we don't have one secretary. We don't have,
Yeah.
so that everything that's being done, we are doing every single aspect of
Mm.
it. We don't
Like
get
How
last
does it look? The demographic of the Belizean community in Florida, how does the attendance look so far in terms of a pulse? You have a
I think,
pulse?
fair,
listen, we got some
fair.
exciting news, but they're not confirmed
You
100%
can't
yet. If
say,
that comes
don't
true,
say,
I
don't
think
say.
you see one big excitement pulse pop right up. So
Yeah, yeah.
let's hope, fingers crossed, and they are very positive about it.
A
But
large community there in Florida, a large
yeah,
Belizean
Yes.
community.
yes, a lot of students. So,
And
but
right in Broward
we're running over
County,
time, and Harlan must have the cusser right now. So I
yeah,
just
we
want
are
to thank
Yes,
everybody
10,
for coming on
10
the
minutes
show.
over.
passageway.
Last minute, as always. Thank you, Verlene and Rishma, for
No
coming on the
problem.
show. This is Naval String Connections. We want to thank uh, XTV, our producer, Noor Mohammed, and Harlan. Thanks,
Harlan,
Harlan,
thank you.
man. I can't believe it, not the combo. Anyway, thanks so much. And go ahead, Bilal. You could end it off.
Yes, man, and thank you guys again for coming on, man, because I enjoyed the conversation, ladies.
Same.
You brought me aboard because there was a lot of questions in my head in terms of organizing on the ground, and I know organizing is nothing easy. I'm an organizer myself here in the Los Angeles Belizean community
They
for
could
30
go
years.
name two people will like work to it.
I
Like,
don't joke to
seriously.
put off that thing there. So kudos to you all. Big up the Belize Diaspora Summit second annual. I will plug it.
Did
And
it come,
Belizeans,
Bilal?
if you miss this. Huh?
You to come, right?
You have to.
It's still questionable
No,
in my
no,
head.
no,
It's
wait,
still
wait. Let
questionable
me
in my
the next week.
head.
And even why
We'll see.
Go
We'll see
ahead,
how it
secure your
goes.
ticket, Bilal.
Thank
Go
you,
to the
Aria.
Bilal.
hotel and secure your ticket.
Hotwire.com.
We'll see how it goes. I'm working it out. We'll
All
see
right,
how
good.
it goes. And
Okay.
but even if I know
No, I
today,
never want to hear that.
I want
That a
big
plan
enough
to fail.
because
You need for today.
well, let's put it this way. Hopefully, I really want to join that, but I want again to big up, man, and to big up the second annual Belize Diaspora Summit, a history in the making. And again, I want to thank the Belizeans across the Belizean diaspora, Belizeans in the United States, UK, all over Europe, Africa. Thank you again for watching.
I am a true born Belizean.
Tell them that we born it.
Belize my home, my native land.
Tell them that we born it.
I want you people to understand.
Tell them that we born it.
I am proud to be a Belizean.
Tell them that we born it.
You're born there, you're born there.